Hi Linux lovers, today I created a Linux bootstick and not a normal Linux bootstick like you do it with Rufus or so, where you then have a live system on a bootstick and you can boot it and then you want to set the wireless LAN password and you set it, and as soon as you reboot the thing has forgotten the wireless LAN password because it's not because it does not have a writable file system. What I did today is I really installed Linux on this boot disk as if it was a real hard drive. And I want to show you how I did this. First of all, goes without saying, you should have a boot disk and a USB stick, and it should be bigger than the size of the install image from Linux that you are downloading. Here in this case, I have the Linux Mint installer or Linux Mint ISO image, and it has a size of 2.8 gigabyte. So this USB stick needs to have more than 2.8 gigabyte of space. In this case, it has 128, and I made sure that it has a good I/O performance. So it's 90 megabyte throughput when reading. That is not quite how much it is when writing. However, you should take care that your boot stick is A, big, and B, fast. C, you should make sure that your Linux distribution is the one that you want. In this case, it's Linux Mint 22.1 with Cinnamon desktop environment and 64-bit for my local notebook computer. If you don't know what you have, take 64-bit. If you know that you have a modern Mac computer, then you should use ARM architecture or Mac architecture. Something like this should be in the file name then. And from this, you have an ISO image. And you can think of this ISO image just like a virtual DVD. In this image, all files needed will be stored. Now, what I will do next is I will have my computer here, put my USB stick into it, and start a virtual machine and tell this virtual machine, hey, you have only two devices to read from. One, your simulated virtual DVD drive is the downloaded Linux Mint ISO, and your only hard drive is the USB stick. So please boot from this Linux Mint ISO, just as if you would boot from a normal DVD, and then install Linux from it onto the USB stick. To install the virtual machine, we first must install some software. In order to install some software, let's make sure our packages are up to date. So we run a sudo apt update. Then we run the command sudo apt install qemu system x64. I have already done this, so this will be quick here. And afterwards, we check that we have the command kvm accessible and executable. This is the case. You see here a virtual machine is being started using the command kvm. Now here you see that I have a fresh USB stick, especially bought for you, and I open it now. So you cannot say that anything was manipulated. So I take the fresh USB stick out of the package and I insert it into the computer. And I run the command sudo, okay, and it has already automatically opened it. And I run the command sudo dmask -c, and we see a new hard disk has been introduced, and that is SDB. So the partition name of the USB stick that I just inserted is SDB. If you do not believe me, run the command hwinfo --block --USB, and let's see what happens. Let's use --short instead of --USB, and then we see, okay, dev SDB, B is the second hard disk, dev SDB is the thing that we have just inserted, and we have also seen this in the dmask output, so we are sure SDB is our USB disk, and it's also important to be sure, because we will overwrite it completely, and you don't want to overwrite the wrong hard disk. So if you overwrite the wrong hard disk, your system on the laptop will be gone. Okay? Now I want to run the next command, which is kvm-m to gigabyte -HDB and so on. What does this command mean? It means first I want to run a super user. I want to run the command kvm, which will create me a virtual machine with a memory of 2 GB RAM, and the hard disk will be dev SDB, so it will be my USB stick, and the boot shall happen from drive D, and it shall happen to use a virtual CD-ROM, and as virtual CD-ROM use the ISO image from Linux Mint 22.1. Okay, before I do this, I go back with position 1 and I put a route in front of it, so I can type enter, and this was now only a comment and it does not get executed. I say free -G, and I see I have 7 GB of RAM available. And I found out during the last call, 2 is bringing the system at the edge, and it would be preferable to have 4 GB of RAM. And so this is what I enter here, and then we start it. And we see the system just boots a virtual machine and shows the screen just as if you were sitting at a physical machine. And it starts now Linux Mint, just like it would do if you had used the image, put it onto a DVD and inserted it into a physical DVD reader. The cool thing is now, while this here is running, we still are on the host computer here on my laptop, and I can say top table of processes, and I see what is running. And I see, for example, that a lot is happening on my system, and KVM is here. So it is running with more than 100% of a single CPU. I can type 1 on the keypad, not on the numpad. And then you will see that I have 8 CPUs, and these CPUs are all busy. And one of the most important figures here is the wait time. That is how long the processor waits for I/O from the I/O subsystem. So whenever it sends something to the USB drive, it will afterwards have to wait till it gets an acknowledgement from the USB controller that this has been written. So you will see going the wait time quite up, yeah, because you see still nothing is happening, and the overall installation for me also took 1 hour. Also, I have a quite fast USB stick. And I hope that I can make it faster this time by not installing LibreOffice. And I hope that in the future I can install FreeBSD, which is hopefully a bit smaller and which will therefore go a bit faster. And I also want to try damn small Linux in order to have a faster installation. So, as I said, we are just waiting here for the virtual machine to appear. And it has appeared here, and you can see here's my host machine, my notebook, and here my virtual machine is running, and inside that virtual machine you can do all that stuff that you can also do normally in a physical machine, so on your notebook. You can start the console, and you can start install Linux Mint. It's a bit slow still, but that will become better once the installation has really happened on USB stick. So we click on, okay, here it is, and I say top, and I see now when I type 1 that I have only one CPU called CPU 0, and the reason is this is a virtual machine. It has virtual CPUs. Virtually available should be 4 GB of RAM and 1 CPU. I type Q to get out of there. I type again free -G. I have English keyboard now, no longer German keyboard, so I say free -G, and it outputs me that I have about 3 GB of memory available. And when I'm here on my host computer on my notebook, and I say free minus G, I again get that I have 8 gigabyte, almost 8 gigabytes, so it will show 7. And here I have almost 4, so it will show 3. So I can do here all the things that I would do in a normal Linux machine, can type uptime, and I can now also type install Linux Mint, and then Linux Mint will be installed onto the only hard drive that this virtual machine sees, which is the USB drive. And the thing has started, and as usual I want to use English as language and German as keyboard layout, because I want to be able to write all my umlauts and so on. And I can now see that the things are moving. I go here to my host computer again. I type top, and I see that a KVM is running with 75% of the capacity. Now I'm being asked to select the keyboard layout. So I go down to German, select this. Oh, have to go to German first before I select German. So German, yeah, German. Continue, and now it will ask us for the hard disk layout. And let's look what it thinks, what a hard disk it has. As I said, my USB stick has 128 gigabyte of space. And if it is legal in your country, I encourage you to click on Install Multimedia Codecs. That will then download multimedia codecs, and you will have to, the option to watch sensible video formats in the internet and on your computer. Nothing against it except the law in some countries, so they make it a choice if you want to do it or not. And now I am already at the place where I shall choose what shall happen to the hard disk. So I click on it and I see dev SDA. Do you recall? I told you several times not to be sure that you are working on dev SDB. And this is the reason. The reason is because what is dev SDB here for the host computer, for my notebook, has been handed over as the only hard disk to my virtual machine. So it has become SDA. And we can verify that this is indeed my USB stick, because it has 128 gigabyte of RAM. However, I would like to keep this, and I would like to say, yeah, this partition shall change, but it shall be kept, because I want to continue to store, for example, photos and stuff like this on my USB drive, while at the same time being able to boot from it. So what do I do here? I say change. No, that does not really work as intended. I say minus, and now it has been deleted. Okay, so I make a new partition, which is the size is supposed to be, let's say, give it 60,000 megabyte. That shall be our Linux partition, and we will use the remaining space for ext4, for VFAT and stuff like this. So you can just plug it into a Windows computer. The Windows computer will allow you read-write access on it, and will also allow you to save your to read and write your pictures or whatever you have onto this system. So we need to make sure that this is mounted somewhere, and it shall be mounted as root. And now we have it. Will need to be formatted, yes. So this will become the first partition. It will become an ext4 file system, so something for Linux. It will be mounted under / root partition, will be formatted, and it will be about 60 gigabytes big. And that is exactly what we want. We say install now, and So no EFI system partition was for, please go back. Okay, let's go back, and then say erase disk and install Linux Mint and advanced features. None is okay. So I would say install now, and later on we shrink the partition. This is also a case. This is also possible. And now the installation will start, and you will be able to boot from this system later. First, you still need to tell the system where you are or what time zone you are in. Berlin is correct for me. And then my name. And take a fancy computer name. And I want to log in automatically because I won't have any secrets on this computer, and I will also give a trivial password. It is weak, trivial, but I don't care because I will be logged in automatically anyway, and I won't have any secrets on this disk. And click on continue, and installation process should start. Yes, it starts with creating the file system for the root partition, and this means we can now go and drink a coffee. This will take a bit longer time. What a luck, we will not be interrupted. The process will not be interrupted by some questions towards us, but it can now proceed till it is nearly done or till it is done. And when we come back, it will hopefully be done, and then we restart and have our ready USB stick. One more hint I wanted to give you. You see here the system is full steam installing Linux Mint, and maybe you will be wondering if anything at all happens. Then of course you can use top to show the table of processes, and when you see that KVM is busy, and then everything is going well. If KVM is stalling at 100%, then something may be wrong, but here the thing seems to be pretty sane because the CPU amount changes, the RAM amount stays more or less the same, and you have high wait times, which means that the system is installing onto a USB but waiting for the IO operations to become acknowledged. Apart from this, you can also run iostat dev SDA or dev SDB on your host machine, and then you will see that you have that per second you write 1815 bytes. So give it an iostat 10, then it will refresh every 10 seconds. And now let's wait for it to refresh for the first time. You see here with iostat you get how much kilobyte have been read from the device and how much kilobyte have been written. And when you see here, we have almost 30 megabyte that get written per second, at least in the last 10 seconds. 24 megabyte got written successfully. So something is going on. It is doing its work. It is installing. Also a good sign that the figures change here. That means it is not always doing the same. It is not hitting a wall. It is going on. So I type Control-C now to stop this process, and I say this process is called iostat. To install iostat, you will have to do sudo apt install sysstat for whatever reasons. Now you see I only use asterisk as my password letters. And you see that sysstat has already been installed for me, so nothing to do here. But if you need to install it, here's how to do it. So this is a little hint what you can do while you are waiting for the end result if you're unsure if the system is proceeding at all. Okay, I have now plugged my USB stick into my computer, and I want to boot from it, and I started. And because it's a Dell computer, we have to type F12 in order to get to the boot menu, and it says preparing one-time boot menu. Oh, did I say I love Dell? I worked there. Great company. So now I asked the computer to boot from UEFI, from my boot disk, and I type enter, and it takes a while, but now Linux Mint will come up. First needs to discuss a bit with itself. Has to show the Dell screen again. Then it shows the Linux Mint screen, and then you can log in. Yes, it is a bit differently. So it's a bit different than I did it in the tutorial. It does not auto log in itself. So this is another boot stick. However, you see now Linux Mint coming up, and then you will have a real system, not some live system where you cannot store your wireless LAN password, or where you always have to redo every setting. You will have a real system, just as if you had a hard disk that you can easily take out of the system, which is indeed the case with a USB stick. And just by the way, another important feature of this USB stick is that it is USB 3, which increases transfer speed dramatically. So we will now see how the system boots up. And it has come up. It greets you with the usual welcome to Linux Mint. And I really recommend that you do the first steps, read the documentation. Well, do the first steps. Documentation is not something for today, where you find all information in the internet. Once you have done the first steps, you close this, and you can use it just like a normal Linux computer. Sometimes it takes a bit to load, because the USB disk is not the fastest, but actually when you look here, you see that it is not that bad. Top works, uptime works, do an ls. Let's cd to slash and do an ls -r, and you can see that there's quite a speed behind it. Yeah. So here it hangs again. Yeah. Now it gets again, and it starts again. So this is how it works. And it's really not bad to have such a USB disk for repair purposes. So whenever I have a computer, Windows or Linux or whatever, and I want to look behind the scenes why that thing is not booting up any longer, or we have some diagnostics to do, then I use my USB stick, and really happy with it. Hope you enjoyed this little video, and yeah, keep me updated in the comments. Thank you.